You read the title. Yeah, I said it. Why is this guy so much better than the rest? I don't want to keep rehashing my thoughts and opinions on his most recent project 17 that came out last month, at the end of last month. Although it was a mediocre project in terms of its subject matter and the way it handled certain situations surrounding the very sad and very cryptic mind of X. You already know my thoughts on that project. I don't feel the need to keep reiterating my points on that. Why I was disappointed with it and pretty much why it didn't really do that much for me, with the exception of a few songs being a little bit more melodic. What is it about X that puts him ahead of the rest of his class, in my opinion? I don't think I've seen so much attention surrounding an artist like this in such a long time. Like, for me, when I'm listening to someone, I think it's great that they're getting attention. I think it's great that they're receiving recognition, whether that attention or recognition be negative or positive. They're still receiving some kind of publicity. But at the same time, I don't think I've ever seen this many people who actually talk about the music, making videos and forming podcasts, even bringing him up on radio shows. I don't think I've seen this much attention being given to one guy who so many people consider to have no talent. What I mean by that is I've seen like a ton of different reviews for, his most recent project. Honestly, there are people who I wouldn't expect to have reviewed the project. They're people who I already know wouldn't have liked it off rip. So I'm not saying that these people, you're not supposed to listen to music unless you like it, because how are you going to know you like it unless you listen to it? It's one of those situations where we have an artist that made an album and it sold very well. 84,000 streams first week, I believe. I'm really hazy on the details. I'm not a numbers guy, but it did really well. And for X as an independent artist, it puts, him in this new light for a lot of people. Like, we didn't know he was capable of pulling these kind of numbers. Yes, you can attribute that to the fact that he has a strong fan base. Yes, you can attribute that to the fact that, streams don't equal album sales. And I know X's name brings traffic to websites and to videos and to blogs and everything like that, but I think there is a better reason why more people are talking about this project as opposed to, some other more mediocre projects that have come out this year. I mean, we don't see, some of your favorite reviewers making videos about, Made in Tokyo's new EP that came out. Why? Because no one cares about it. Maya could probably drop a project. Cap G could probably drop a project. A Boogie could probably make, or a Boogie. I don't know how you want to say his name. Anybody that was in that 2017 freshman class could have probably dropped a project and nobody would be talking about it the way they're talking about X. The same thing happened with the Cypher. Although X's Cypher was against the grain, although his subject matter was way on just a different scale of edginess, and I can agree with the fact that I don't believe that it was fair for him to take his opportunity to freestyle and turn it into an opportunity to be super edgy. To say that it didn't stir up any kind of attention or draw more eyes to the freshman cover is kind of ridiculous. And I think I finally figured out why myself, as somebody who listens to a good portion of his music that comes out, plus, music that comes out from the other guys that were in his class. I think the reason I have a little bit more anticipation when listening to X's music is because I know after I'm done with the song, whether I like it or not, I'm going to talk about it. With everybody else in his class, you got, people like, I've said before, Playboi Carti, Made in Tokyo. And I'm not just solely referring to his class, like his XXL class. I mean putting him ahead of people like Lil Yachty and even Uzi. And in my opinion, Uzi objectively made the better project. But there would be nothing for me to talk about. Why would I be excited to listen to a guy's music who's not gonna give me anything to talk about in my review for it? I mean, a lot of people still forget that. I still do give my opinion and my thoughts and review the music that I'm listening to. What fun is it for me as a reviewer of said music to review any music from a guy who's not saying anything with his music? And that's kind of what X does for people who like music, who like any kind of hip-hop. He gives them kind of an opportunity, whether they like his music or dislike it, to discuss it. There's nothing to discuss about a Lil Uzi project. There's nothing really to discuss about, a Lil Yachty project. They're just there. They're not really doing or saying anything. And that's kind of what puts X ahead of his class in the sense of enjoyment of music or wanting to discuss it. Anybody who's passionate about it in the slightest would like to hear from this guy, in my opinion, because at the very least it'll start a conversation. Not in the sense that, oh man, his subject matter is just so deep, or oh man, this dude isn't edgy in the slightest. I just think there are a lot of people that have convinced the masses that since X makes music and has been so edgy, that it gives people an incentive to kind of dislike the music more. I was nowhere near as edgy as X is when I was 19 years old, okay? I was a very realistic individual. I wasn't perfect, and I definitely didn't have all the answers. That's kind of what people also need to understand about X, is that he's 19. I mean, they're treating him like he's, I don't know, a rapper who's been around for years. I treat his music objectively in the sense that from a message standpoint, it doesn't stand out to me. But I'm not critiquing his music in the sense that I believe he could not become better than what he is at the moment. I actually see hope for X, despite the fact that I was disappointed by his album. I actually see growth from X. I don't see that in other artists. I don't see any change. I don't see any evolution in his class. I don't see that. I see that with him and him alone. So when people are out here and they're making these videos, I think they have to kind of take into consideration the fact that they are discussing an artist who is, in my opinion, actually going to go somewhere. Whether that be his subject matter, he will evolve, I believe. Now, when I say people are too harsh when they discuss the music that they've been listening to, I mean they're harsh in the sense that they say it with the idea that this person they're discussing has no chance or hope of getting better. And that's not the way I want to portray myself or the way I want to come across when I'm talking about this guy specifically, because I do think he is one of the few in his class and in his generation of rappers that have potential to be something more than what he's being represented as. I mean, we still got people pretty much definitely saying he did what he did to his ex-girlfriend, which in my opinion, you don't know the facts, you can't speak on that. Pretty much you have a lot of older people that are judging X's music that, I don't know, give artists that are around their age passes for some of the same things that X at 19 is doing, and in my opinion that just doesn't sit well with me. Two, you have a lot of people who are critiquing and looking at X's music from a subjective point of view, in the sense that they're getting their opinion from so many other places. When they come into X's music, they're like, oh yeah, all this dude does is scream. Oh yeah, man, all this dude's so edgy. I base my opinion off my listens and no one else's. That's why I go through the trouble of trying to hear something the minute it comes out, because I don't want anyone else's opinion up in here. Number three, one of the reasons that puts him ahead of his class, in my opinion, like I said before, is the anticipation for new music. Like I said, I may not like it, but I know I'm gonna have something to talk about. Whether or not X is always on the mark or on target with his subject matter or on target with the message he's trying to convey, which isn't all the time or barely any of the time. I actually acknowledge the fact that he's 19 and he doesn't know everything and really isn't claiming to. Pretty much, I think it's admirable for an artist like X to have ideas of where he wants music to go, or at least where he wants his music to go. I don't see that being a thing in the eyes of any other rapper in the freshman class, in the mumble rap class. I don't see that being there for them. I don't believe they care. And this is the conversation again of where people are always wondering, you know, oh, what sounds good versus what, you know, is lyrically pleasing. Because I'm not one of those people that thinks all music needs to have a message in order for it to be a good piece of work. But at the same time, I'm not the type that, you know, as someone who does what I do on this platform, likes to hear music where I have nothing to talk about after I'm done listening to it. I mean, be honest with yourself. You see a guy who's underground, made a couple hit songs, he got into a little beef with Drake, honestly made a couple mediocre projects, hasn't released the greatest music of all time, yet he got every reviewer on this platform, every reviewer to make a blog post, every music figure to comment in some way on his project. I'm not saying the album was good. I'm saying X did enough to stir up the pot. Because for some of the reviews I've read and seen for this project, I was like, why did you even make this video? Not to say that you aren't entitled to your opinion. I'm just saying you don't even look like the individual that would ever even review this. Even in the sense of people who make the blog posts or make, you know, a forum post about this project, it seems to me like someone has a weapon at the back of their head telling them, if you don't speak on this, I'm gonna get you. I bring up so many other reviews of this thing pretty much just to show that there haven't been reviews to a lot of the other projects that have come out of the Freshman 2017 XXL cover. Or probably will be. I know a Boogie's coming out with a project near the end of September or something. I'm not interested, okay? Made in Tokyo came out with an EP. Not interested. Majority of the Freshman cover could come out with an EP tomorrow and I probably would not care. The fact that so many people had an opinion of X's music is what I'm trying to get at. It means that there's something for them to talk about. Whether those reasons be that it was just surprisingly bad or it was surprisingly good. He gave them something to discuss. When you make music, it's not about how everyone perceives it, right? It's not always about being at the top of the charts. It's not always about, which he was, but we're close to. It's not always about having the greatest lyricism. It's about making people talk. I like listening to music that gives me the opportunity to create some sort of dialogue. It makes what I do on this platform way easier. Want to know why I don't enjoy listening to some other projects? You want to know why I know that there's some issues with other artists? Is because when I'm listening to their project, sure, some of it might be melodic, sure, some of it might have some pretty cool production, but there is zero representation of the artist. You don't need to be perfect for me. You don't need to make music being afraid of what a reviewer or what you might define as a critic might say. You don't need to be worried about that as an artist. Just get your message out there. If people like it, they like it. If they don't, they don't. But if you create a dialogue surrounding yourself or your project, that means to me you can be somewhat thematic. That means to me you can somewhat carry an idea. Reason X, in my opinion, and pretty much the main reason of this video, the reason he is ahead of his class, in my opinion, is because he sparks dialogue. He has something to say in his music. Like I said, not always in agreement with it, not always loving it. To be honest, I think he could have perfected the whole hype rap thing a little bit more before moving into such somber subject matter and music making. But I don't think I could be capable of making a video about any other artist within his class and actually having something to talk about. I have zero to talk about when thinking about every other rapper that came out of his class. Every single one. So although I gave 17 a 3, I still believe that X is capable of more than that. This is just why he's ahead of his class, because I actually anticipate his music. I don't anticipate it to be good. I'm not expecting it to be a certain way, but I walk into it knowing that when I'm done with the song or the project, I'm gonna have something to discuss when I'm finished. As I've said before, I would highly suggest you developing your own opinion about these projects and not to have any social bias towards them. Listen to X, understand the fact that he is 19, he's not going to know everything, he's not going to be a perfect artist. This is, I believe, his first studio album. And to pay attention to what you listen to, because just because something sounds good, if it has no substance to it, which is what I expect in rap music, and you're listening to it 1,000,002 times, and at the end of the song you can't develop an opinion because the rapper didn't give you anything to talk about, just explore other avenues. That's all I'm saying. See, I'm out. Hope you enjoyed the video. Leave your opinions on how you feel about this whole situation, about other artists. Like I said, I'm not saying that he's the best artist. I'm not putting him above like certain levels, but I am saying that a part of his class, I believe he is surpassing. I really don't know how to end this video. I'm gonna just close it. That's how I'm gonna do this. Bye.